Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Coulihan with the Association of Alaska School Boards. And today I am delighted to keep going in our Being a Trauma Engaged Leader series with Ralph Watkins. Our first video in the series was relationship-based mindset. And I bet Ralph's going to talk about that in this video as well. Our second one today is school-wide trauma practices and trauma engaged practices. And the third video in the series is community partnership and investment. So welcome, Ralph, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Heather, for inviting me into this space to talk about trauma engaged school-wide practices. I'm Ralph Watkins. I am the superintendent of schools for the Valdez City School District. And I am excited to talk about this. School-wide practices for trauma-engaged schools is important. First and foremost, we have to remember that every student is coming to us from some place. And sometimes that place is from a place of trauma. And we have to be prepared to welcome them into our space, into our school, into a place where they can feel safe, where they can feel connected. And that's what our practices should do. Our practices shouldn't be barriers to connecting with and providing a safe space for our students.
Well, thanks for rooting us in that, Ralph. Now, you are coming to Valdez from Puna School District. So I'm wondering, what did this all look like in practice in Huna?
That's a great question. Let me first say that Huna is an amazing community with people who love their children. And when I came to Huna, one of the things that I wanted to do was to make sure that our school reflected our community values. And so we were intentional about making sure our practices matched that. So an example is we changed our late slip to a welcome slip. We made sure that every student that walked into the door, the first thing that they heard was a hello, and we're so glad you're here. And did you have breakfast? Do you need anything? Those simple changes made a huge difference of how our kids came into and felt welcomed in our buildings.
So of course, the big question is, what can the viewer do to get started in their own schools on school-wide trauma engaged practice?
I think the first step is examining what your current practices are and putting those up against your trauma framework. Do you have practices that are barriers to providing a safe space for your students? Once you've examined that, then you need to create a common language. How are you going to talk about trauma? How are you going to describe it and define it? An example might be defining what dysregulation looks like. When a student is having a bad day, what does that look like, and how are we going to respond to it? Then identifying practices that are going to be used school-wide. Providing ongoing professional development. This is key. Not just district-wide professional development, but providing opportunities for staff members to engage in independent professional development for their own learning and development around trauma-engaged practices. And then creating space for your staff members to talk about the work of trauma-engaged schools and trauma-engaged practices. These are all key elements to not just creating school-wide practices, but creating practices that are going to be sustained because they are valued by all staff members.